Hey everybody, it's Dr. Anthony G. Beck, and I'm back with my protege extraordinaire,
Dr. Stillman.
Dr. Stillman. So here's the thing: in these videos, we really like to share with you guys our thoughts on some things that have all come about from what patients give us a lot of feedback on, and what they're doing, what they're being exposed to, things that they compare and contrast our message, balanced protocol versus other things out there. So today we're going to talk about testing. Like you've probably heard the old adage out there, test, don't guess. You ever heard that before?
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. How can you argue with that?
Yeah, because you're like, docs, here's the thing. You said Q square, M square, qualify, quantify, measure, and monitor, and you use tests to do it and justify the patient, get that amazing objective data. Yes. And so many people go, well, here's the thing. I went to my doctor, and they did some blood work.
Yep. And it was normal.
How
about that?
What does that mean, Doc? What is that when they say some blood work? What can we expect to have them have looked at?
So, you know what? Most docs, I'd say it extends to a Chem 10 panel or a comprehensive metabolic panel, a complete blood count with or without differential, a cholesterol panel. Sometimes some people will get their thyroid markers, their vitamin D checked. And that's about
it. That's the blood work.
The UA, urinalysis sometimes.
The stuff you need to qualify for an insurance policy.
That's right. Yeah. Plus minus an EKG.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean that's what most clinicians are running, and it's just such a it's normal. And when they say it's normal, what they mean is it's not abnormal enough for us to take further action. But one of the things that's amazed me, and one of the reasons why I'm so invested in integrative medicine, is that they stop asking questions when they can't explain why the routine labs are abnormal with a very narrow range of further tests to inquire as to why they might be off.
Right.
I mean, how many patients have you had come to you and you're like, how long has your mean corpuscular volume been 101? And has anyone ever given you an explanation for this? And they say, you know what, doc? No.
Right.
I mean,
but if it's your PSA, guys,
oh boy,
you're gonna have some fun with that one.
Someone could get a lot of money for cutting your prostate out if that's
right. So you mean to tell me? I know I might be a little off the wall. I'm not conventionally trained like you MDs, right? But you mean to tell me people will make decisions on care based upon reimbursement?
Yeah, the phrase in training that they told me. I mean, really, this is what they said. They said reimbursement drives practice. You talk to people who actually run the hospital, that's a fact.
It's true.
And that's why when I say, people want to criticize doctors for what they're trained to do, you're criticizing them for what they're getting paid to do.
That's correct.
And
ooh, that's good.
We each have a responsibility for what we negotiate and tolerate in our healthcare system. That's why we're raising the standard with balanced protocol.
And to their defense, can I say there because I'm not one of you?
That's right.
Right? So here's the thing, though, is that they're flooded with a bunch of sick EA people. I mean, the numbers of people who eat the standard American diet, that are sedentary, all the things that they just, not our audience, of course. But you got to understand, there are just hundreds of thousands or millions a day of visits to a conventional medicine model. And they have to do it. It's why, what's the guy who did McDonald's?
I don't remember.
Cook, Koch, something, whatever. He had to streamline these hamburgers, right? And it's the whole story about McDonald's is about how they were able to mass produce, billions of burgers sold.
And make them highly addictive.
Exactly. And that's a good one. That's totally true.
It's a fact.
It is.
It's a fact.
They'll find out later, like they did with the tobacco industry.
Or will they?
R.G. Reynolds. All right, so or will they? I don't know. Hold on, we got to check our sensor meter here. So here's the thing. So what ends up happening is people flood that sick care system.
Yep.
And they're a byproduct of that environment. Yep. Doctors have to see, 35 patients a day to bill for $35 up code to 42. So somebody else will pay for it so they can bring in enough money so their, health management people will hit the numbers for the profit of the company.
Exactly right.
I mean, that's kind of what it is. Healthcare administrators are like, listen, you get 7.6 minutes. If it's 8.4, we can't do this. And like, we can up code if we do this, that's true, but not enough to meet the algorithm. So the point is, to their defense, The sheer amount of unwell people flooding that system makes that system, and they become the predominant thing. Everybody knows that there is a McDonald's in just about every town, no matter what. They were able to pull one off.
Yep.
So that's going to be that. So when we're talking about testing, unfortunately, that massive cattle call type approach forces people to learn a vernacular to say, well, my doctor did blood work, as if blood work is a thing that they think it means because it was normal, okay? And inevitably, I can always be a stinker and say, well, in that blood work, did they do a serum copper? No.
Yep.
Okay, but did you know, you're complaining of thyroid stuff, and the whole thyroid cascade is copper dependent.
Yep.
Did they do a canurinic acid, lab? No. Well, that's in the urine, so we need that. It's outside of the blood. That's a functional marker for B6, and thyroid is B6 dependent.
Yep.
So they're going, what? And you might be doing that too now listening to this. So the point is, yes, we love labs. Okay, they substantiate and give us the evidence that we do. It is the objective data. It is the requirement of the scientific method. But don't get comfortable in your care, even though you might have a good doctor, because remember, good is the enemy to great, and they don't know any better. So don't expect to have great results or resolution of your symptoms and complaints.
Which is why, as I mentioned before, you get all these people coming in who have these lab abnormalities that may be mild or slight or, nothing that was further tested showed up anything, right? But, what we really do and what we really love is to actually get to the bottom of things, not to stop until the case is resolved. The patient's health is where they want it. And that means doing more expansive testing, which is also more expensive testing, which is just a simple fact.
It is, because with all that, and speaking of getting to the bottom of things, one of those tests is a digestive stool analysis, right? So the blood work doesn't tell you everything.
I use that pun too.
I know, never forget. We had to, turn this to a crappy situation. All right, no, anyways. So sometimes we have to get a stool sample. Don't send it to us. I say soon. We'll send it to the lab. We'll send you a kit. You can send it off, and then whatever. All right. So I can't tell you, Doc, how many times I've had a gastrointestinal principal complaint patient, and their GI doc, because you go through the care, right? You go to your general practitioner, your primary care, your family doc, and then they refer you.
I call it the care ping pong game.
The care ping pong game. Oh yeah, exactly. Kick the
you go to
can.
your primary doctor, and then he ping pongs you over to your subspecialist, and then they say, "Oh well, yeah, I don't know if this is," because the thing is, with somebody with abdominal pain or abdominal complaint, if they are complex enough, the next thing they know, they've got a primary care doctor, gastroenterologist, and maybe they consult a vascular surgeon or someone who's got an expertise in cardiovascular medicine. Maybe it's a vascular issue,
right?
And then maybe the next thing you know, you got a neurologist because you also got these migraines. Maybe you have abdominal migraines that are causing you to have stomach pain, and the next thing you know,
it's boggling, right?
It's amazing. And they have more doctors and more visits, and they really just want someone to sit down with them and actually take a history and take time and get to know them and go over their whole medication list and their history.
And each one has to do it, remember, in 7.6 minutes.
I know.
So they can bill some type of reimbursement or insurance, the Ponzi scheme. But that's what I'm saying. I've had so many people have, just for an example, is something essentially located as their clinical complaint in their GI tract.
Yeah.
Right. Gas, bloating, fullness, distension, borborygmus, fancy terms. So, and their GI specialist, the gastroenterologist, didn't even do a stool sample. They didn't even do a stool test. I am blown away by that.
And that wouldn't blow me away if it weren't for the fact that when we do the stool analysis, all kinds of weird stuff comes back.
It's amazing. Because in particular, we do one, and we're going to take a look at inflammatory markers, right? Calprotectin, eosinophil protein X, things like that. Secretory IgA. We're also we screen for parasites, because that's such a predominant thing, knowing that the statistics on people who have parasites is massive.
It's not just for third world immigrants.
It is. No, it's not. Okay.
But let's be honest why that is. It's because they're cooking your food.
That's exactly right. Because, we might have to use a drug, it's a horse dewormer. Well, let's not say the word, because this might go on YouTube and they might hear
Not
it.
just for horses anymore.
That's right. Because if it was space, and then, mech something.
Starts with I, ends with mectin.
That's right. It's an anti-parasite drug, but it's used for a lot of other things.
Lots of other things.
Lots of other things. But the point is this. there are drugs that can treat certain things, but if you're not screening for them and you're just going, oh, here's
How are you
just
ever gonna know?
how are you going to know? I mean, we talk about the microbiome all the time, right? It's out there, but you need to know what's in there, what's not in there, what potentially pathogenic ones are in there. But if you are going to a clinician and you have a GI complaint as your principal one, we call it the magic wand questions. If you could have any relief of any complaint, and the first thing has to do with something in your inner tube, you have to do a digestive stool analysis. It's mandatory in us. It's exactly what it is. Like you can't make soup without a water, a liquid, right? Like, yeah, that's kind of true, right?
What about?
No, go ahead. I love it. It makes fun. So that's the funny thing now is you have to do it. So the word test, right? So we're talking about tests or labs or blood work. We want to make sure that you guys understand that it's so much more complicated when you're going after chronic things than there are acute. The vast majority of people don't realize that the medical model is designed in an acute care model. That's why they don't do any further blood work.
And quite frankly, there's a lot of secrets to blood, urine, stool analysis, and interpretation that are not taught to clinicians, frankly, anywhere.
Right.
Naturopaths, chiropractors, allopaths. And the Beauty Balance Protocol is the sheer number of cases that have been brought through, translated through the, cross-referencing, obviously, the scientific literature and studies to understand, okay, well, this patient had low short-chain fatty acids and X, Y, and Z other factors. We should give them this, that, the other thing in order to fix it. So we don't just come up with some cookie-cutter approach. You get a customized protocol that's going to work for you based on your labs, not somebody else's.
Yeah. Like another one out there is really common is thyroid. People say, oh, it's your thyroid. You're tired, cold hands, cold feet, hair loss, constipation, weakness, insomnia, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, and, hard time losing weight. It's your thyroid. So then you go to the doc and the doc does some blood work.
Yeah, right.
There's a term, or checks your thyroid. And then some people say, well, they did my blood work and they checked my thyroid and everything was fine. Mm-hmm. Okay. And therein lies the problem. I always ask the patient, well, what does that mean? What do you mean when they did blood work and what was normal? And the vast majority of you will say, I don't know, they just said they did it.
I know.
You got to hold them and you to a higher standard that you should know. But then I'll tell you what this. Then some are like, well, they checked my TSH and my total T4. Mm-hmm. How much of the thyroid hormone is in there, and then what's the signaling. Well, then some people will go and say, well, that is woefully inadequate. And then the next thing you know, if the TSH is high and your T4 is low, most docs are going to do what? Give you the pill for the ill, and they're going to say, hey, here's some Synthroid.
Yep.
Okay? So then now you're taking Synthroid, everything's going to be supposedly better. Well, your body has to convert that synthetic T4 into the useful, target cell activation form is T3. You got to take an enzyme off. You got to take a thyroxine off, right? So, but there's an enzyme, right, that does that. Well, that enzyme is B12, folate, zinc, copper, and B6 dependent, and magnesium along the way. So here's the problem. You can drive that medication in there to drive up your levels and make that TSH go down, but that doesn't mean your body has the ability to convert it or bind it to the receptor, or isn't going to go and turn it into the wrong thing like reverse T3. So that's a perfect example is when you do labs, don't be fooled by doing labs or doing blood work, okay? The functional markers of a lot of nutrients are found in the urine, not in the blood to begin with, and not a UA or a urinary analysis that was typically done when we look at specific gravity or ketones or whatever.
Yeah, those have a place, but they're just so inadequate compared to what we do.
Completely inadequate. Yeah. So the topic is making sure you understand that labs is a thing. I like when people say test, don't guess, but that doesn't mean if you have a GI problem, do a SIBO breath test, which a lot of my fellow naturopaths would do, or functional medicine practitioners, right? They love to do that because that's their jam. Because they're still going to give you the same thing anyways, but that doesn't tell you what bacteria is doing it or not.
Not to mention the fact, you've had cases, right, where the SIBO breath test was positive, but then you actually do a real stool analysis where you grow out what's in their stool, and you do a PCR test, and they have low overall microbiome.
That's it. It's just the opposite of what the SIBO would indicate for you to do, like stay away from FODMAP foods. Right. And I'm going, Well, if you did a proper workup, it's quite, in fact, that you have a little bit, not enough. It's almost like, feeding a flame. The tender and everything's right, but there's not enough air circulation to it. You push enough air to it and it goes up. If you have too much air, you'll blow it out.
Yeah, right.
So it's the same thing when it comes to fibers and FODMAPs. Well, we don't get into FODMAP more, but exactly. You can't just do an obtuse tunnel vision, one test associated with one symptom, one organ system.
Right.
Labs need to be across multiple systems to find that out. And even then, that doesn't tell us everything, because we'll see these abnormalities in a digestive stool analysis, in a lymphocyte response assay, after a urine organic acids panel. But we still need to figure out the why, and that can come from, like we talked about in our previous videos, the environmental inputs, air, water, light, sound, EMF, and the food that you eat are causing the labs to be what they are. Yeah. So this is why even with labs, which we love, you have to translate it through the patient's story. So that's the message of today's video, is really making sure that you understand that if you do labs, they need to be in broader context of view. They need to look at multiple systems, not just the system that is giving you the trouble, okay? It could be the same thing like a car. You're like, oh, well, we take a look at the tires, and the tires are bald on the outside, therefore the alignment is off. Well, that doesn't tell you what caused the alignment to be off, okay? Maybe the struts are not cambered right. So the answer is, okay, well, we align you, put some new tires on it, but it happens again. Well, hold on a second, it's because you didn't look at another system, right? So we try to overly, not simplify it, but just overly explain it. Yeah, that's the biggest issue is it's more than that. And the reason why this is funny for us to say is because you might be experiencing this now like, well, that's way too complicated. Boy, that sounds expensive. And here's the truth. It's both of those. But what do you want? What do you expect? What do you want to do? I mean, why would you ever go to a steakhouse?
Also,
because you could make your own steak at home. It's a lot less expensive.
But I mean, it's worth it to feel this good.
It is worth it to feel this good. Yeah. And you'll end up saving a lot more down the line by not henpecking through all these particular pipe dreams, right? Yeah. So you want to do it. So in summary, test, don't guess. It's a great adage. However, the proper context is you have to test more than just where the complaint is. You have to understand that everything in the body is interconnected. Everything all eats from the same refrigerator, poops in the same toilet. That's what I say. The whole body is all together, whether you like it or not. It is intertwined. There's so many pathways and tentacles of connection. So you have to assess a lot broader. That doesn't mean you have to do every test at our battery, right? Because we have a lot.
But I mean, we pick and choose them for the patient at the time, instead of just, and this is one of our pet peeves, right? Is these people who are like, well, you all need our food intolerance or sensitivity test, or you all need our microbiome test.
No.
You might not.
You might not. So we let the story dictate that. But we do have some solid, very common workups that we do. But like, for instance, we could do a cytokine panel, or I could do ionized calcium, or I can do a vitamin D differentiation study, or we could take a look at neurotransmitter pathways all up front. But there's no need to do a lot of these other tests, because we're going to get them what we call BOGO, right? They're going to buy one, get one free, because we're working upstream. We're working very foundationally in your environment, your lifestyle, your mindset, and your nutrition, to where those systems that are downstream consequences of upstream imbalances get corrected for free. Perfect example is hormones. People will come and say, well, I'm looking, you guys, I need to balance my hormones, because they listened to some hormone summit or some hormone niche picker, and they said, oh, you need to balance your hormones. Okay, well, guess what? You're not going to balance hormones directly going straight first thing out of the order of operations of going to try to, well, I'm using bioidenticals. I'm using Discorea villosa extract for my progesterone. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not how that works. You might feel better at first, but it will absolutely be fleeting down the thing. I've been lecturing in that realm professionally, thousands of docs around the world. Yeah. And if you don't fix the biological and the nutrient pathways that govern and influence those hormones, you can give them all days you want, but it's going to go away because you didn't fix the root of the problem. You can't put duct tape on a crack. It'll stop it for now until the water slowly makes that duct tape peel away.
Yeah.
It's an example I use. So don't try to go and just do labs based upon your symptoms or complaint of that system. You have to understand that there's a lot more upstream to correcting downstream imbalances. So that's the thing. We love labs. We encourage them, but you got to do them in the right order. Makes all the difference in the world. So if you're looking for somebody to help you do those and navigate through that journey, we're here to help you to do that. At the end of this video, you'll have some information on being able to do that. And we always love you guys to follow and join us here on these. And we'd love to hear more from you when it comes down to these. So feel free to comment below, leave your questions, stuff like that. And we'll do additional content for you guys to make sure that we get all your questions answered. So until next time, live life in balance. And we look forward to see you again real soon.